Hello, Acadiana, and welcome back to another episode of From Chains to Change. My name is Marcus, and along with my co-host,
Consuela Gaines, better known as Sway.
Dr. Samika Minor.
and tonight we're going to be airing our final episode of our first season of 2023. In my opinion, this is going to be probably the most exciting and most informative episode we've filmed here on this channel. With that, buckle up and stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
All right, and with us in the studio today is none other than our Deputy Director, Mr. Bruce Riley, who came in all the way from New Orleans
All the way.
today. Yay!
All right.
It's so good to see you. It's his first time on the show because he also has a partner podcast with the same name, From Chains to Change.
That's right.
And so we do everything as a family. And it's so good to see you, Bruce.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thank you for
DJ
being
Bruja in the house.
DJ Bruja in the
Yeah.
house.
Nah, it's good to be out here. I love the
Yeah.
setup. I'm really
Yeah,
excited.
Good. And you gotta slide somewhere and get some Lafayette food, because I know y'all brag on New Orleans food, but
All right, well,
we've
you know.
got some of the best.
To check with my
Cajun
chauffeur
food.
on that one. See if,
Yes,
see
y'all-
if he's going to stop one of them boudin places.
Okay, yes. Boudin, yes, get some. So, on a serious note,
Yeah.
so
You know-
Mika has some questions.
Yes,
Oh,
I surely
okay,
do.
bring him on.
You have the podcast, like she said, From Change to Change. So what were some of the hot topics?
Oh. Well, you know, one thing that we love to do on From Change to Change is have on candidates who are running for office and kind of really ask them the questions, get under the hood, spend some time on the issues. And, you know, it's unscripted. It's basically unedited. I mean, except that there was some snafu, and really gives people a chance to kind of talk at length about something.
Right.
And so, for me, I thought one of the most exciting episodes that we had in this past year was when Lindsay Cheek, who was running for Attorney General, made it to the runoff, and we understood that she was willing to talk about the toxic chemicals in our soil, in our air, right? The petrochemical industry, how it's destroying our communities. And so we decided to have her on a second time when she made the runoff. And we went right to Cancer Alley. And we set up in the field, in the shadow of all these companies with smokestacks in the background. And we also had Miss Ann Rolfe, who's the executive director of Louisiana Bucket Brigade, and Devin Davis, whose family comes from out that way, and so went through the environmental racism that came after slavery, and I got to moderate a really incredible discussion between the three of them, on point, on the scene, and I honestly think it's something that we really need to be taking, like, in full. Right? Like, we are the only place in America where there is a Cancer Alley. And we
I
need
didn't
to, you Google Cancer Alley, you will not see like Cancer Alley, Washington, Cancer Alley, Idaho, Cancer Alley, Florida, right? There's Cancer Alley, Louisiana.
Wow.
And it's built off the backs of freed slaves areas and along this Mississippi that has been polluted to the gills. And then when the peat burns, it smells like nail polish.
Oh, geez.
But when you go to other parts of the world, you burn the peat, it smells like peat, it smells like earth. And so for us, we have these fumes where you've got that big pile up on the 55 where all those people crashed their cars, and I think it was about a dozen people died. Like, a lot of people, some people died, and because the fog, based on like the soil burning,
Right.
and it's just all this unnatural stuff. And sometimes you got to wonder, for instance, if you have so much lead in your body, you're gonna, so many milligrams per billion or whatever it is, parts per, you're gonna be like considered mentally retarded, right? You're gonna be developmentally disabled. Well, what if you have a little bit short of that? What if you, drank the certain water or inhaled the certain air from the time you were a baby? Well, maybe you're gonna have a harder time in school. Maybe having a harder time in school leads to having a harder time, kind of keeping it together in certain situations. You fall into drugs or alcohol or violence, then you end up in prison. and then it's just one of these contributors being in an unhealthy environment. And the very fact that we don't have a base of political leaders who are fighting that full force is really kind of embarrassing, and it's a tell about our democracy that we don't have those voices. It'd be like living in the blackest state in America and not having people that fight for black civil rights.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Like, why should we expect people in a whiter state to do that work? We should have those leaders here.
Here.
And around Cancer Alley, we should have the leaders fighting back against these foreign companies that just take and take and take, leave a few crumbs, but as we know, the elites, they soak up all them crumbs, and then they say to the peasants, like, get your lives together. And so it's on us to organize and fight back against that.
Right.
And I believe the congressperson who represents that area should represent the people that live in that area,
Oh, yeah,
not the
definitely.
companies that extract profits from that
Right.
area. So that was a really good episode. I encourage everyone to go watch FromChangeToChange.org. We've got the video version, we've got the audio version on Spotify's and podcast the podcast app thing. So it's out there.
Okay. And so for 2024, who do you think you will be having conversations with, and why?
Well, you know, we got a couple of really important things going on, and one I'll just say is our jail, our sheriff, our situation in New Orleans. I think is a really important role. It's an opportunity to, I think, really advance some justice in a very unjust realm. We've been talking about getting free phones in the jail and on tablets, you know, where people can actually take advantage of the tablet for other educational purposes and have something to do when you're in a place that doesn't have a yard,
Right.
don't really have, they got
outside,
nothing else
yeah.
to do. There's no education building or anything like that. There's no programming.
Right.
And so we really need people to have some things to tap into.
Yes.
So, you know, working with the sheriff, the city council, I think there's a lot of opportunity there. The DA, I think Vote can do a lot of amazing things in 2024 by working with the community.
Right.
And then, you know, a lot of our work obviously ties into the state legislative session. You know, we've got some new exciting people coming in, particularly Sean Mina, I'm thinking about, who's representing the new district in New Orleans.
Okay.
Excited to kind of, you know, get to know him more, but also educate him about our issues so that he can be a champion, which I strongly believe he will be. He's a person from the community, he gets it. And so that's going to be another big topic. But we're going to all be sort of on the ready to push back
Right.
if there's any like real hardcore right-wing attacks on people. And personally, I think that one of the things that they're going to probably try to do is just eliminate parole altogether, right? Or some version of that. And so it's going to be on us to explain the value of parole.
Right.
Not just that it saves them money, right? But we're talking about the value of parole, about giving hope for people, and the difference between doing 20, 30 life with hope versus doing it with no hope and being like, I'm dying in here one way or the other. And we got people like Chico and others who've been there when there was no hope, and they can testify to the difference between one or the other, and whether someone feels all I can do at this point is burn it down, or someone who's like, you know what, I'm going to be there for my kids someday. I'm going to be a better person. And, you know, obviously we want the latter, and we hope that everybody wants the latter, but it's going to be on us to organize our people, to share our stories, and break down the data in ways that other folks aren't going to do it for us.
Yeah, yeah. That, you know, I like the fact that we continue to fight on the real issues that our people encounter daily, you know, and for them to even be considering to do away with parole. To me, I always say a hopeless people is a dangerous people.
Right.
If you don't provide some form of hope to people and everybody is feeling hopeless, that's when they can expect the crime rate to increase.
You see that in Gaza right now, across the world, right? You see people that got pushed to the brink, and then did a dangerous thing, right? And I think that is, we always got to be learning about people's struggles all over the world.
Right.
Oh, and one exciting person I'm going to bring on the from Change to Change is a scholar. Her name's Lydia Pellow Hobbs, and she wrote a book that when I moved to New Orleans years ago, she was deep into. Got her PhD, finished it off. It's called Prison Capital. Just came out. Just did a launch event, and I want that to be our next book club thing.
Okay.
It's rooted in Louisiana, and it's rooted in structurally, how did Louisiana become the most incarcerated state in the world? Right. It wasn't just by accident. There was like specific policies and fundings and leaders and messagings. But within that narrative of how it got like super punitive and the per diem and the federal funding and all these other things, you've got this fight back. And so it really tracks the dawn and the early years of the Angola Special Civics Project, which obviously was Vote's forerunner.
Right.
And so she did her work with lots of interviews with Norris and Biggie and Chico, Eugene Dean, but so there's that component, and then there's this sort of Katrina era, right? And then there's OPPRC, the Orange Parish Prison Reform Coalition. There's the sort of post-Katrina organizing in the context of like National Guard wanting to shoot the looters and all that kind of stuff, and the racism that was like across the board. The NOPD battles with the police department, the consent decrees, and then incorporates the organizing of this group Breakout, which does some great work around LGBTQ and trans youth of color, particularly in New Orleans, and so ties these issues together around both the oppression and then the pushback from the oppression. And it's really well written. I'm down to like the final like 15 pages, and I've got like copious little notes in the margin of like things I'd like to ask her on the podcast, but also ideas that it's given me. But one of the things that I was left with was just how much of like the replay, the playbook that these people keep coming up with, the same slogans. Harry Connick Sr.'s like 1973 slogan, you could just like peel it off and give it to Jeff Landry today. It's like all these things of what they're trying to like fight against and for.
It's always repetitive. It just recycles.
Yeah, and then how the funding, when it's in boom time, it's like, oh, we want to, the thing that people don't talk about a lot of, and I know that I only have so much time here, so I'm not going to dive deep into it. But something that people really got to be thinking about is the relationship between prisons and incarceration and what they call excess labor, right? So when the labor market doesn't have a need for, let's say, young black men, or it only has a need for like a certain slice of them, well, what do you do with everybody else? Well, you might ship them off to Vietnam for a war, but when that ends, you got to do something with them, right? And so this idea of like, well, I'll pay some of them, I'll pay the women to lock up the men. How about that? Right? And so like this excess labor issue, and rather than figure out better solutions as a community, that cares about everyone, that tries to make it so everyone can succeed, we have this really predatory approach where excess labor is somebody that just needs to be incarcerated somehow or other. And the drug war is a big part of that, but like racist policing is another part. But like creating a realm where only in Louisiana could you take someone seriously when they say you got 30 years for stealing hedge clippers.
Right.
And so it's like we need to be talking about those things and how we approach the overall economy and what they, and what we, but also particularly the people with the decision-making power, how they approach unemployed people, right, or underemployed people. And how do you approach like 16-year-olds that don't have a lot of prospects? Well, what do they become when they're 17 or 19 or 21? Do they just become inmates, or do they become people that are on the way to something positive? So I think these are the things that we want to address. Other folks would rather not talk about. But yeah, ask candidates what their plan is for excess labor. Next time, you just want to stump them a little bit.
I have to go to that one.
All right, so Bruce, how do you think that we will be able to accomplish some of our goals at Vote and objectives?
Easy.
Objectives. Huh?
We organize, we organize, we organize.
Okay, yes.
We
I
have
agree.
to do like each one, reach one and teach one, and continue to bring people together. And then we can collectively decide like what are our problems and how can we solve them.
Right.
Right. And the more people we bring together, and this includes people that don't necessarily share our experience or our orientation. Right. It might be someone from the other side of the tracks, and it's like, let's get together. Let's talk about what's going on in our community. Let's talk about why we're struggling. Let's
Right.
talk about why you're struggling. And maybe you're someone that's like, I don't know why the police have it so hard. Okay, let's talk about that. Why do the police have it so hard, right? Like we got to be willing to talk about it. And we got to break bread. We got to organize. We got to knock doors.
Yeah.
We got to make phone calls. We got to reach people at whether it be the parole office, the prison gates. We got to talk to them mamas who got kids on the inside, talk to them daughters who got dads on the inside, talk to them women who are in the Diamond House, right? We got to talk to those guys that are in Parole Project, and we really got to bring together our experience and our expertise and then collectively solve our problems together. We're not going to do it as individuals fighting one case or one issue.
Right.
We're only going to do it as a massive force for change.
All right. Well, thank you, Bruce.
All right. Well, I'm
for
so happy to be
stopping
here.
by.
Ta-da! Chicka chicka DJ Boo Ha.
All right. Thank you
So
so much.
so what? I just go like poof, you make me disappear. Like I do one of these like. I don't know how it works.
That's Bruce.
You cut me out. You just like, do I give up my seat? It's all right.
Thanks, Bruce.
Ciao, ciao, ciao.
And we are back. But this time we have Votes Policy Analyst, Mr. Ronald Marshall, who also came all the way down from New Orleans to spend some time with us this evening. How you doing, Ronald?
I'm great. I'm happy to be here with you guys, you ladies. I'm happy to be here. Tired, but I'm happy to be here.
Oh
glad to
yeah,
have you
he's
here.
been on the go. He's been traveling, accepting awards, just doing his thing, and even thought about us little people. So, Ronald, as the policy analyst, what were some of Vote's wins in 2023?
I think the biggest win for Vote, considering the political climate of the Capitol in the session, was just our presence, showing up in the face of formidable opposition. I think that's our biggest win. Just like Goliath and David, we was that David. We were David in that cap because our opposition is bigger than us. But just showing up, letting them know we stand unafraid. We're committed to this movement. We're committed to our issues. I think that was the biggest win for us as a people, showing up. And sometimes it get really, really lonely up there, knowing that the voice is like destroyed against everything that we believe in. It gets lonely sitting up there. But when you look around, you see a few soldiers sitting next to you, like you, Samika. It makes me feel good to be a part of this movement, knowing that despite our limited numbers, despite that we're outnumbered, having you ladies and many more vote members in the committee, it's like the biggest honor that I can experience. That's like the biggest win for me.
Oh wow, I
Yes,
love that. I didn't
yes.
expect that answer. I really didn't. I didn't expect that
Yes.
answer. I expected him to come with one of our laws that we were trying to get passed. But yeah, that is a major win. Just
major
for us
win.
to be present. That was a huge win. And as y'all could see on our background, that's prime example of how we showed up at the state capitol in 2023, because that picture was taken this year at the Capitol. And so, yeah, that's a huge win. So do you think we'll have to defend any of our wins from 2023 in the 2024 legislative session?
Yes, we're going to have to defend not only our wins from 2023, but most likely our wins from 2017. I mean, the tour was from 2023 session was rolling back the GRI. And they've already started conversation about rolling back the JRI.
Explain that. Some of our viewers may not understand when you say JRI. What is that?
So in 2017, that was a bipartisan package of legislation to reduce the incarceration population in Louisiana. It was a collective of 13 bills, and together those bills became the Justice Reinvestment Initiative, where money when the population reduced, money from the reduction will go to communities, reentry programs, and things of that nature. Now we have a team of Republicans who want to roll back those reforms because their narrative is that the release of prisoners from the Department of Corrections is the reason why crime rates are so high in Louisiana. And as a policy analyst, I have to disagree with that. So what they're going to do this year in 2024, every good thing that package created in 2017, like adjusting the good time laws, parole laws, or reducing the sentence for certain crimes, they're going to roll that back. And roll back means just to reverse it. They're going to make some of those laws worse, like it was when Gendon was in office, when the correction rates was almost 50,000 people in Louisiana. That's going to be really, really tough.
Yeah, and when you say that about the rolling back, because I'm already hearing it, and I'm seeing Governor Edwards telling them that y'all are going to be making a mistake if you want to try to roll back the JRI, if you want to do away with it, because it was none of those policies that were put into place that is the reason or the cause of the increase in crime in the state of Louisiana, because some people think that.
Exactly. So, when you create this narrative that people coming home from prison are the ones that are committing this crime, and you don't know any better, you believe what you hear.
Yes.
And the media is being used to spin this narrative that guys coming home from prison, women coming home from prison, as a result of being released by these reforms, are causing this crime. That is a faulty narrative. And as advocates in this movement, it's our goal to set the tone straight that, hey, formerly incarcerated men and women is not fueling this crime rate. We have to push back against that narrative. We have to let our communities know, from New Orleans to Shreveport to Lafayette, that hey, when you see a formerly incarcerated man, don't get scared and think he's going to do you some harm. No, he's not. We're not the ones committing these crimes. It's happening. And another thing we have to be concerned about, they're inflating the numbers of the crime rates. Crime rates are not as high as they're making it seem.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So, yeah, people have to be cautious of the narrative that's being put out. Like you said about the numbers that they're putting out, because they're going to only try to use those numbers to justify them rolling back laws.
Yeah.
They're instilling fear into communities and getting people to back them, when in essence they are really putting out false information to get people to back their own personal agendas to feed the prison population.
Right.
So how can Lafayette's formerly incarcerated people, how can families of currently incarcerated people, with knowing this, how can they get involved in this movement? How do you suggest they do this?
I mean, if you're watching this podcast, my suggestion to anyone's watching, if you're formerly incarcerated, you have a loved one that's formerly incarcerated, or a loved one that's currently incarcerated, get in touch with Voice of Experience. Get in touch with Consuela. Get in touch with Samika. Get in touch with Marcus. We need you to volunteer your services in this movement. We are at war, and I say that all the time. We are at war. It's a political war. And prisons are a political weapon. And if you look at the number of people who are incarcerated, when it comes to black people, we are losing this fight. In order for us to get an edge in this war, we need our families to get involved. We need them to skill up their awareness to understand what's going on in our community, what's going on in the news, what's going on in the Capitol. We need you to get involved. We need civic engagement should be at the top. It's not going to change if you're on the sideline. You have to get in this game and play it for what it's worth.
Because what do we always hear? We always heard when we were in prison, we would hear it all the time. oh, when I get home, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. You make all these promises, but a lot of times you get home and there's no one like vote around that is actually doing it. And so all those hopes and dreams just kind of fade away. But if you're in the Lafayette area, the Baton Rouge area, or the New Orleans area where vote chapters are, there's no excuse for you to sit back and say, I don't have an avenue or a means to be able to do what I said I was going to do while I was incarcerated. New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and Lafayette are have some of the most numbers in the prisons.
Right.
And another thing I like to say when it comes to like doing this work, if you're formerly incarcerated, you know how it feels to have your neck under the foot of oppression. You know how that feels. And now that you are free, this organization and others like it around Louisiana give you opportunity to fight back.
Yeah.
Don't remember what happened to you on the inside. You have a story, and it's through those stories that we're able to raise our voices and change narratives, change policies, and also change elected officials. So join this walk, get in touch with Voice Experience, man. Contact me, I'll point you in the right direction. Just know that we need you. And without your presence on this fight, we're losing the battle, man.
And it's a heavy battle because it's ongoing, it's constant. Like he said, we had some serious wins in 2017. You know, we have our voting rights restored back. That's even an issue that could be rolled back. You know, so there are a lot of things that are at stake when it comes to formerly incarcerated people and our rights that we were able to regain in these past legislative sessions. But if families, if communities don't come together, learn how to use their voice, exercise their voice, tell their stories at the state capitol, if they don't learn or even have a desire to want to learn how to make a difference and how to be a part of the change, we can expect some things to really not go in our favor in the near future. And a lot of people kind of focus on the upcoming presidential election. That's good, that's fine and dandy, but what's more important are your local elections. Your local elections will touch you much quicker, much more directly than your federal elections, which is your presidential election. Not telling you not to vote. We want you to vote in your presidential election, but more so, you have to start being more active and more concerned about your local elections, and that's from your governor, your state representatives, your city council, your parish council, your mayors. We have to learn how to really focus in on these people, our district attorneys. We have to pay attention because they kind of rule what's going on right around you, right in your community, more so than your president. And people tend to not get that part. And so we want to make sure that you get that. And we need more people to come to our vote meetings so that you can learn and have a better understanding as to why that's important, right? And so you have any closing statement that you want to just leave with people, Ronald, before you leave us?
Yeah, for all the formerly incarcerated men and women, you know what it's like on the inside. You know what it feels like, the sting of oppression. If you've done a day, a year, 10 years, 20 years, you know what it feels like to be kicked in your butt by the foot of oppression. You know, and you have men on the inside that you grew up with in those prisons, you can't forget them. So the work we do at Vote, we do this work because we can never forget what happened to us on the inside and what continues to happen to those who remain in prison today. So you getting involved with this movement, this is an opportunity for you to not only stand up and represent for your community, but also fight for the brothers and sisters who can't fight for themselves.
So you heard it. You heard it straight from our policy analyst, Ronald Marshall. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having
We
me.
appreciate you so much. Thank you. And we'll be right back. And welcome back. And now you see this lovely man sitting next to me is Mr. Checo Yancey, who is our director over Voters Organized to Educate. Hello, Mr. Checo.
Hello there, Ms. Consuela, and it's glad to be here, be with you.
I'm glad you're back. This is not your first time on the show. We had you on our very first show.
And now how many shows have you had?
This is the 12th one.
12 shows.
Yes.
Yeah, you guys have done a phenomenal job in Lafayette. Y'all have really, as my boss would say, y'all planted your flag in Lafayette, brothers. Y'all really going. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me, Sway.
Thanks for coming. So we were having some conversations kind of off screen about the bills that were passed back in 2017. And I wanted you to kind of expound a little bit more on the Justice Reinvestment Initiative and kind of explain in more detail, because Ronald did talk some about it. Explain more in detail about what that looks like or what it was meant to do and what could possibly be undone in 2024.
Well, first of all, there's a lot that could be undone, and most folks really don't understand what the JRI investment was. It was investing in the community. It was investing in people. And when you invest in people, then you have changes come about, and people are moved from one place to another. But the reinvestment was about investing in people. You hear all the stuff about the crime and all this. Yes, there's some crime. I wouldn't doubt that. The first thing people need to understand that vote is about public safety too. We all want to be safe. But the thing about the reinvestment is you're looking at people now that I believe, and looking at it and researching, it's about bodies. It's about putting bodies back in where they can make money and
Bodies back into the prison system.
bodies back into the prison system. The system was never designed for what we're doing.
Right.
The system was never designed for rehabilitation. The system was never involved, for coming back in the community. It was always about, you're gonna fail.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter what you did at some point because of this work. We see people getting into situations that would not never happen because our people have become voters. Our people have become participants in the system.
Yes.
They was never designed for us to be there to advocate.
Right.
Right.
It was never designed for that. I think back before the reinvestment to when I was in prison over 20-some years ago. We lived that. We saw the general years. We saw the Roma years. We saw the Foster years. We saw that when nobody was coming home. The reinvestment was about investing in people so they could come home, where they could have a place to go, where they could get a job, where they could actually start a family back and reunite with people. The coming legislature is not about that. They want to build more prisons, more jails, and the more that they build, people don't realize in some of these small communities, it's the jail that employ the people.
Right.
Yeah.
Walmart said, hey, I'll build a Walmart in your small town, but you build a prison, but you got to have 90% occupancy. So that means that you got to keep people in. We're in an era now that since the reinvestment, people can go to their parole officer and talk to them.
Yeah.
Parole works with former incarcerated people.
They do.
Parole enjoys allowing people like us to come in and share what the downfalls are, what the uptick of it, what you can get out of it. But people are not satisfied with that. So they will have this false narrative that crime is bad. And the key to that is lock them up and throw away the key. So that's just my take on some of it. When we look at it, we have to understand that prisons is about money.
Right.
I look and laugh at what you guys have done. You got a new mayor, a new
City council.
city council, all of that, you know? And then people don't like that because that means now you have a seat at the table. And when you have a seat at the table, it's like an old friend of mine used to tell us on the inside of Angola, if you're not there when they cut the pie up,
Right.
you get the crumbs.
Right.
So, you know, we've been at the table and everybody's not happy with that. So when you go back what John Bell has done and with the reinvestment, they had the Vera project came in, did a whole analysis of what could happen, what would not happen, and hey, what you could do if you did this. So they had the professionals come in to persuade way before we got to the legislature. See, people don't realize that they got with, I used to go to the Justice Commission meetings and everything. That's when the Department of Corrections, elected officials, the community, and everybody would sit down and talk about how you could change this locking them up and throw away the key. How could we were educating people on just how much money people were making. You know, there are courts around here that, you know, put a fine on you and you don't even understand what's going on.
Right.
Right.
You know, we had to teach people that when you go into court, make sure you understand what's going on. We had to make sure we had to get people to get involved into the system. That's why you become a registered voter. So you can have your vote counted and you can have something to say. And, you know, the reinvestment done that way and, you know, it was a great job. So now we got to get at the table, we'll get away from the table, put the wall bonnet on, and we got to go and advocate. Because I wrote down here that I can imagine in 87, 2000, we didn't have anybody advocating for us.
No.
No, we didn't.
Now think about that. There was nobody advocating, so they said, hey, you know what? Let's throw this pen up and whatever it land on, if it's 10 years or 15 years, let's try that and do that. And nobody said anything. Well, here we are with Voices Organized to Educate, is to educate our people on what's going on, and for the other C3 side to come in and say, hey, let's get the people out there and let's get them to the Capitol and let them speak up. But first of all, people got to know who their elected officials are.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, I deal with that all the time. When people come to me with a problem, and I know they get upset with me, I said, tell me who your state representative is and who your senator is. Well, hold up, brother. You need a sister. You need to understand. These are the people that came to you and asked you to vote for them, came into your community, and you elected them, and now you don't know how to get in contact with them? That's shame.
Yeah.
That's shame, you know. So, you know, that's just a start of its way. I mean, if I get started, then I can't wait till the legislature session starts, that we can be there front and center. We got bills we still want to introduce. We got bills we can fight. And the main thing is, and I guess people got to understand this, Marcus, every legislator can file as many bills as they want.
This session, this coming
Session.
2024.
You don't have a limit. It's not a physical session. It's not a limited. You can have 100 bills for each legislator. That's 105 state representatives, and that's 39 state senators. So if each one of them filed 100 bills, but vote has to sit back and track all of that. So we need our people,
Right.
the members of vote, to help us. Yeah, we got some sophisticated stuff and all that, but people, you can miss a bill. You can miss a bill that will hurt everybody in prison. We have to be on top of that bill. We have to understand that, and as Bruce and Ronald was saying earlier, with our partners, they understand too what's going on. When you got the Power Coalition, which is our sister group, when you have the ALCLU, you have all these other organizations that we work with. I don't want to start naming an organization, because if you miss one, then somebody's going to take slight of that and then have a problem with vote. And that's not my intention to have a problem with it.
Right.
And I take that bag from the beginning, that if I start naming them, then somebody's going to say, you didn't name me. So that means you're not.
You're not-
And that's how it happened in the
we
prison.
have
You know, look,
to-
you
we
know
have
that
to
happened in the
partners.
prison. You know that if
Yeah.
you didn't acknowledge somebody, then in prison you had a beef.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
problem.
You had a beef. You didn't even know you had a beef.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, so, but we all of our partners that work with us, all of our members, all
know
of
who they
our
are.
community, anybody that's about advocating, hey, you included. So I'll put it that way.
Yes, yes. Yeah, we have a uphill battle, and I think the thing that I need to impress upon people is that we can't do it alone.
No, we can't.
We can't do
We
it.
can't.
It takes people. People is power. It takes communities. It takes more than just 2 or 3 people at the state capitol. Because like I pointed out earlier, you see this group of us who were at the state capitol this past year at the legislative session. We're gonna need a lot more than that.
Yes.
From all across Louisiana. It's not just New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and Lafayette that we need, because there are people from all over the state who are incarcerated.
Oh, yeah. From
All over the
every
state.
64 parishes.
Sometimes buses come to the state capitol from Shreveport. We need buses to come from Lake Charles. We need buses to come from Opelousas to the state capitol this coming legislative session. So y'all start planning to come, even if you're not in a blue shirt. We would love if you were in a blue shirt. But there are going to be some serious things happening in that legislative session in 2024. And if we don't show up, we are definitely not going to like those results.
I kind of feel that people, it's their duty to show up,
Yeah,
because
it is.
either them or someone they love benefited from the sweat, blood, and tears that vote have invested in this fight,
Yeah.
right?
And it's not just happening yesterday. That's what people don't understand. We actually
Right.
started this fight over 40 years ago, back in 1987, inside the prison. When Norris Henderson and all the guys got together, and we got a new organization called the Angola Special Civics Project, the ASCP. This was what we were looking for. You know, when we got our chance to file our first bill, you know, we didn't know the ins and out, all this. People have no knowledge what a bill, what you have to do to get a bill filed. You got to find a sponsor, then you got to find somebody to put that in committee. You got to have the support. All those things are very important. We learned some of those things. You say, oh, wow, we can do this.
Yeah.
And then realize we still didn't know nothing. But as we got out of prison, because I got out on the benefit of the 2045. You know, it benefited me. Now, when they first started talking about the 2045, to be honest with you, I said, man, y'all crazy to do 20 years. At that time, I didn't have but 8 years there. You know, I'm like, man, y'all got to be crazy. 20 years? And then, you know, but what it said is you had to do 20 years in prison and be over the age of 45. And then you still had to take care of everything that you needed to do within the prison. To be a good conduct record, to go to school. You know, we actually having to put a college in Angola. We graduated from college there. You know, we took all the classes. We took everything that was necessary. All of the anger management, all the stuff that they said that you would need. And guess what? When you get out, you need all that. You know, but don't come back now and take it away, because you got guys that's in prison and ladies that's in the LCIW and other parts of the state of Louisiana. You know, they're benefiting from the reentry program. They're benefiting. I can remember when I first met you. I mean, way back, because we was doing reentry then. You know, vote hadn't evolved, but we were still doing this work. And once we learned and put it all together, look what we're doing. We're educating not only ourselves, but we're able to pass that on to loved ones. Pass that on to neighbors. Pass that on to people that we meet. When people ask you, what does that vote stand for? Oh man, I'm sure glad you asked me. You know, voice of the experience. What does that mean? You know, hey, we got some experience. You know, because we all did some time in prison. I did 7,309 days, 20 years in Angola. You know, we all did.
And I did a little bit more, 22 years.
Well, you know, and then when you look at it now, 22 years, 20 years, 12 years, and you put all that together, then you got what? Voice of the experience, because we can tell you what it's like. I don't have to sugarcoat it no kind of way that, hey, if you vote for me, I'm going to set you free. No, I ain't no vote for me to set you free. You got to do some work. So with these people, what they're trying to do is come back and roll back everything. we already know, and I don't know, I would suggest to our viewing audience here that, you know, you go on our website and you check it out, because we got all the hearings on there. We got all that stuff on there so you can educate yourself.
Yes.
Don't take for what I say. Educate yourself. We can show you where they're coming in. They just created a violence task force
Yes,
Yes.
they did.
Yes.
with some of the same members that's on the ACJ. You said, what is the ACJ? That's the Administration of Criminal Justice. That's where those people meet. It was so bad this past year that you could only get 5 votes out of it. They had stacked it.
Yeah.
So if you think that was bad, what's going to happen
be
now?
worse in
So when
24.
people come to you and ask you to vote for them and help them out, then you need to find out, well, how do you feel about this situation?
right.
How do you feel about this situation? You know, I've gotten so that, you know, my pastor comes to the meetings, you know, and he allows me at church to talk about voting rights, to talk about other stuff that's important to people, because you'd be surprised. I found out in the church that adopted me and allowed me to come in, they had other families that had other members in prison. They just didn't want nobody to know.
Right. Right.
So when they found out, hold up, here's somebody that really cares and understands the system, let me go talk. It's good to come talk to me, but I want you to come and see.
Yeah.
You have to come and see for yourself, and we just can't go to the legislature. We have to deal with city council meetings. We have to deal with all this, the Betsy board, all that starts in your community. Who is on your Betsy board? Who's running your board of education? Who's running your city council? Who is your mayor? Can you go to your mayor? They come to you and ask you to vote for them, but can you go to them and say, hey, I got a problem?
Right.
But then guess what? We are citizens now.
That's it.
We are called returning citizens, that we are back. And when I say returning citizen, you know, people use that lightly. I'd use it as a way of saying that as a former incarcerated person, I now have some rights. And that's what this is about, you know, because people don't understand that when you lose your right and they put that chain on you,
Yeah. Yeah.
and by the way, Angola is still a slave plantation.
Right.
Major James made it a slave plantation, you know, so, you know, when we went to prison, you couldn't even educate yourself. Yes, if you had a life sentence, you couldn't go to school.
Right.
You know, so, you know, we've opened up all of those doors to have people to do better. And I'll say this, is anything perfect?
No.
No.
You know, when you look at the numbers of what Vote has done with other organizations, with the Power Coalition, with organizations that's passing bills and for former incarcerated people, and people come out, guess what happened? People become better people.
Yes. Yes.
People become better people.
Yes.
Because, hey, that means you got involved, you understand some things, but we can't always depend on somebody else to do it for us.
Right. Right.
So every man and woman that comes out that I get a chance to meet, because we work with the parole project, which the policy that we're talking about, when Ronald was on there earlier as the analyst, we're actually doing bills now. You know, he just asked me a while ago, hey man, I need you to look at these bills so we can look at what legislator can we get to carry our bill.
Right.
Now let's go all the way back. Remember I said earlier, we was on the ASCP in prison. We didn't understand what it meant to have a bill carried.
Yeah.
You know, so now we have learned that, so we can pass it on to our communities. We can pass it on to our children, to our families. You know, I just had recently, this past few days, someone that I care about a lot that got a jury notice and was trying to get out of the jury notice.
Yeah.
And I had to explain to them that, you know, we fought hard for people to have jury duties, and yeah, it might be inconvenient, but guess what? That means you're a part of the system.
Yeah.
That means you have something to say. So if you look at the evidence and see everything, you have to understand, wow, what is this really about? Is this good? Is this bad?
Right.
But if you don't get involved in
Right.
being a regular voter, you know, people are going to complain now with 2024. We all know the Democratic Party is fractured. So we have to really tear that Democratic Party down, get involved, get our people to get there and become a part of the party to make the party much better than what it is in Louisiana. you know, we have a leader of the party now that, to me, let the state down. We just come out of elections. Nobody come out to vote.
Right.
Because everybody give up on this one guy because he had $9 million. So everybody else just cowered down. Now we're seeing him put his cabinet together. And you need to pay close attention who's going to lead these fights. And you know, now he's done something that no governor's ever done. They did it from Baton Rouge, he's doing it from Lafayette.
Yep.
And guess what? I will say this, and I heard someone tell me this, and I did a little research on it. When Bell Edwards won the last election, they started planning that night how to get back in power. Because they had lost, and we sit back and allow those people to get back into elected official offices that's going to hurt us.
Comfortable. Right.
And I'm sad about that. With all information that Vote puts out and other organizations put out, our people did not show up to go vote.
And we're gonna have to leave it at that, Chico, because we are out of time.
Oh, wow.
But
Time goes fast, right?
yeah, it goes so
Yeah.
super fast. But I just want to say thank you.
Well, you know, first of all, let me thank you. You know, we go way back, way
Way
back.
back.
And to see you doing what you're doing in Lafayette along with the whole team, you know, so I don't want to have just one person. It's a team effort.
15.
Right.
You know, when I look at Marcus, Samika, when I look at you guys and what you're doing, and I can remember where we come from here in Lafayette.
Yeah.
Because I can remember driving to Baton Rouge from Baton Rouge up here to try to get the team together.
Right,
So I can
right.
remember those days we were just 2 or 3 of us at the meeting. And now look what you guys have done. You're on TV now. You're on social media. You're doing things. You know, you're making people proud of it. You know, proud father here now has something to tell his son one day. Look what your father did. Yes, I may have stumbled, but I got back up.
Right.
And guess what? There's nobody we know that has not stumbled
Right.
That's right.
That's true.
except Jesus.
That's true.
That's right.
Yeah.
Brother, thank you so much, man. Love having you here. And, bro, I can never get enough. So,
And we'll definitely get you back
Yes,
in
next-
2024.
yes.
Hey, you know,
Don't
I'm ready to
stop-
come back
don't
once.
stop here.
And guess what? We have to come back in 2024 and probably bring the crew to try to explain what bills
Yes,
and how we have
definitely.
to pump
Yes,
up our
definitely.
elected officials
Yes,
here in
we started
Lafayette,
off
our
with
other
that.
elected officials. All that's a part of
Yeah.
organizing.
Yeah.
All is a part of, you know, what we're doing with the Power Coalition and all those other organizations. We're going to need everyone to do what? Get on the battlefield
Yes.
and get on the front line.
yes.
No, I'm saying get on the front line. You can't. It's no time now to be waving back in the back and wishing what's going to happen. We have to get on the front of the line,
Yes, I
and we have to be the narrative. We have to be the narrative.
I agree.
So thank y'all for having me. No surrender.
No retreat.
No surrender.
No retreat.
No surrender.
No retreat.
No surrender.
No retreat.
I think y'all got it.
All right, we're working on that.